Greetings. My name is Matthew Rowett, and I'm working with Jessica Hirschhorn in ASU's Study Abroad office to bring you the Devils in Beijing Summer 2017 program. I work with CRCC Asia, and we're contracted by ASU to provide internship support and placements for all students on the ground looking to go into this program. To give you some background on the ASU program, we ran it last year in Beijing in the summer of 2016, and we had around 20 students actually attend this program. The first thing that I want you to think about is when you're interested in doing an international internship. One of the first questions we have to answer is why China? China has recently become such a superpower in terms of top exporting growth, top investing growth, and of course, huge population surges, which have really created more than 10 million new urban jobs in China. In terms of the country itself, it is the fastest growing country in the world, with an average growth of, right now, it's around 6.5 to 7% of GDP. It also has the largest currency reserves in the world, and now there is an increasing global focus on China. You can't open up the newspaper today without really trying to understand what's going on in China. The second part of this question is why intern internationally? The ASU Devils in Beijing program was set up to provide students like yourself an opportunity to really get a fundamental understanding of a different business culture. And why is this important is the question we're trying to ask. So, work experience in a professional setting has become more and more essential for recent graduates to secure a job after graduation. ASU has recognized this, and in an increasingly globalized world, international internships can provide you guys the skills and expertise and experience to really make yourself more competitive in a job market. Here's a quote by Andrew Rosen. I'm not sure if you've heard of Kaplan Incorporated, which is a huge education provider in the US. Your textbooks might be made by Kaplan. But he says, "Many come to appreciate the importance of international learning opportunities only after graduation. In addition, while many post-secondary institutions offer cultural and language exposure, there remains an unmet need for work opportunities that prepare students for a global career." So this is something I really want all of us to focus on now. This program, the ASU Devils in Beijing program, really helps students like yourselves determine what career path works best for you through an international internship. Now, as you can see here, 68 to 69% of college seniors will have completed at least one internship before graduation. So for many of you, I'm sure you've completed at least one internship, but for those who haven't, this might be a perfect opportunity to first of all get something on your resume, and second of all, figure out what it is after graduation that you're really interested in. Finally, the question that we have to answer is why this program? CRCC has been contracted by ASU because we've been specializing in connecting China and the global community through our China internship programs for around 10 years now. As you can see there, this is one of our founders, Ed Holroyd Pierce, meeting with Premier Li Keqiang. So in terms of government support, we've been actually given the go-ahead by the Chinese government to run these programs. Now, in terms of the program itself, CRCC has centered each and every program. So every student actually goes through a comprehensive program model that's centered around employability, cultural agility, China knowledge, sector-specific knowledge, and then last but not least, global guanxi. So we're going to unpack a little bit more of those once you apply to the program. But very briefly, employability is of course a blanket term to a whole range of different skills that make you more employable as an individual. So getting something on your resume, getting to be more culturally agile, learning how to do simple office tasks, of course. Secondly, cultural agility speaks worlds about how an intern or how you guys will be going into a different country where you will not really understand the fundamental way to do business. Chinese business acumen is a completely different type of business acumen from the West, and this is what we really stress on the program. How do you go from one situation, taking your own perspective and backgrounds, into a completely different situation and use your backgrounds to really help that company? Of course, we do focus on China knowledge. We're going to have Mandarin Chinese lessons. We're going to give you tours around Beijing. And then, of course, sector-specific knowledge. So Take, for example, if you're interested in the field of finance. Sector-specific knowledge will allow you to basically learn what the field of finance is all about through our internship programs. All of them are professional development experiences, meaning that you will be assigned an English-speaking supervisor who will really be your guide and can teach you really about that field, even if you have a very limited understanding from, taking classes, 101, 102 classes at ASU. Last but not least, we'll be going into global guanxi. Guanxi is really the fundamental term for networking in China. For example, if I stepped on someone's foot in China, I would say, I'm sorry. I would say, 对不起. And they would say, 没关系. That means we don't have a personal connection. That means it's okay, right? So this is a fundamental term that is used at all walks of Chinese life and Chinese society. But what it really means is interpersonal and professional connections that you make in China. So we're going to be learning how to cultivate these connections so that not only on the program, but also when you return to the US, you have a network of host companies, a network of supervisors, a network of individuals that you met in China that you can really work with in the future. Now, here are our 5 learning outcomes again: employability, cultural agility, China knowledge, sector-specific knowledge, and global guanxi. These are things that you'll have to keep in mind throughout the entire program, and these are things that we really stress through our admissions calls with your advisor, and then, of course, when you're on the ground working with your resident advisors. To give you a little bit of background at the ASU program in Beijing, Beijing is a city that is really the cultural capital of China. It has been the political capital of China for many centuries now, when Kublai Khan actually made it into the northern capital. Bei means north, Jing means capital, so it literally translates as northern capital in Chinese. Here we, of course, have the Tiananmen, which is the gates of heaven, which is the entrance to the Forbidden City. As you can see there, there's that iconic picture of Chairman Mao looking out over Tiananmen Square. And, of course, during the program, you guys will have the chance to explore the Forbidden City. As part of the ASU program, you'll also have the chance to camp on the Great Wall of China in a remote section of the Badaling region. So if you see there in the distance, you can see all the tents of the ASU campers. But in general, Beijing is a city that is constantly changing and constantly shifting. And although it is distinctly Chinese, it also is very much influenced by the West. So, for example, if you're interested in exploring Chinese culture and Chinese history, Beijing is the place to do that. But also, if you're interested in getting a little bit more of a Western experience, Beijing, of course, is home to some of the biggest malls in China and the biggest malls in Asia, where they have Western brands, Western fast food restaurants, etc., that have taken a serious foothold. This is the ASU program in Beijing last year, in front of the Temple of Heaven, right next to the Forbidden City. Now, to give you some background on the internship itself, CRCC Asia has been working with over 600 companies for more than 10 years now. And all of these companies that we work with do provide a professional development experience, meaning that you'll always have an English-speaking supervisor. I would like to note that we can neither force nor bribe a host company to take our students, and they basically take you because they understand that this is an essential trait for the companies to have actually to have international interns to increase their internationalization. So CR Land, for example, is one of the largest real estate companies in China, BYD, Olivi, Lenovo. I'm sure there's some names on here that you recognize, and equally there are going to be names that you may be placed in that you don't recognize, but these companies are billions, do billions of dollars worth of sales, like Lenovo or Gaotime, which is one of the financial services providers that we work with in Beijing. But at the same time, we really stress that the most important aspect of this internship is not the size of the host company or the prestige of the corporation, but really what you take from the experience. So we actually find that a lot of our interns have a better experience working on smaller teams in smaller host companies, just because they get more responsibility, if that makes sense. Now, We do work in over 14 different sectors. That being said, when you speak to your admissions advisor here in our San Francisco office, she'll be talking you through what really makes sense with your resume and what makes sense with your career goals. So we'll talk a little bit through the application in just a bit, but the sectors that have been most popular, of course, for ASU students have been finance and accounting, business, consultancies, hospitality, and then, of course, marketing, PR, and advertising. As you can see there's some devils on the steps of the first day of their internship, and we'll actually drop you off to your host company. What's included in the program? Not just having Jessica Hirschhorn from ASU accompany you 24/7, but also CRCC Asia will provide a resident advisor who's really there on the ground to really make your program very focused on that professional development aspect. So if you have any questions, if you're struggling at work, our RAs are there to really help you through these problems. You're, of course, guaranteed an internship in that sector of your choice. So that's going to be either that first or second sector of your choice. And I would like to note that this is an extremely collaborative process. So if we reach out using your resume and, of course, your interests to one of our host companies, and they don't really think that it's a good idea to take you for this summer, we of course have different companies that we can work with to really fulfill your career goals. That being said, you do have to keep an open mind, and if there's a specific field that you really want to get in, we'll of course try our hardest. But as I said earlier, we can never guarantee a certain company, but we can in general guarantee a sector. And if you're not placed in that particular sector, say if you don't have accounting experience in Chinese, which is usually required in our Chinese accounting firms, then of course we can get you in the field of finance. You'll always have an English-speaking supervisor. We'll have the visa processing and support through our office here in San Francisco, pre-departure assistance, airport pickup services, international hotel accommodation, induction day, which is a full day of orientation, a welcome banquet, a welcome pack that includes everything from a SIM card to a city guide, as well as a tour around the city, weekly Mandarin lessons, 24/7 support and guidance from both our RA, and then of course you'll have an emergency number that you can always call that connects to our China offices. The China business seminars, which I can go more into in just a second, community outreach, networking opportunities, and then of course a leaving event. Now, in terms of the airport pickup service, ASU students will be flying into the Beijing Capital Airport, PEK, and we will be actually picking you guys all up at once in our buses. So that means that you will be all coming in on the same or similar flights. If you don't come in on that same flight, we'll actually have people there on standby making sure that you get to the right place. And we'll actually take you from the airport directly to your accommodation, and we'll check you into your accommodation. I would like to note that to check into your accommodation, you will need to bring some renminbi in advance, which is the money that they use in China, just so you can pay that room deposit, that security deposit that you'll obtain when you check out again. The accommodation is in serviced apartments, meaning that you will have your own private bedroom. However, you will also be sharing a kitchen, living room, bathroom, etc. with other CRCC Asia interns and, of course, other ASU interns. The induction day is basically running you through what's expected of you when you're in Beijing, what's expected when you are at your workplace, and then, of course, we end it with a little welcome banquet. Company drop-off, we'll actually drop you off to that first day of work, and that means that you will be responsible for getting to and from work from then on. So we'll take you in our vans to that first day of work. However, afterwards, it will be your responsibility to find your way back. I would like to note that Beijing is a very easy city to navigate around. That's mainly because the subway system is extremely efficient. So you guys are actually going to be located within the second ring road when you're living in the Jiuxian condominiums where we put all ASU students. And that means that you'll be very close by to a lot of your workplaces and close by in relative terms because Beijing is still one of the biggest cities in the world. So commutes are going to be anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and sometimes even an hour long, but that's very standard for large cities. We also do provide Mandarin language classes. These are not mandatory. However, I think Jessica will be taking attendance there. So make sure that you not necessarily study up, but these Mandarin classes are more survival Chinese. They will teach you really how to get around China, how to speak to a cab driver, how to order food, etc. And of course, when you say happy birthday, in Chinese it's 祝你生日快乐, which is what these ASU students are holding up from last year. Now, in terms of the China business seminars, every month we do actually host an event with not just ASU students, but also other CRCC Asia interns on the ground. And this will be an event that will be primarily a speaker event, but will also be a chance for you guys to network. So this is where you bust out your suits, where you put on your ties, where you bring your business cards that we provide. So in this sense, this is a great opportunity for you to expand your guanxi, so to speak, your personal and professional networks. So last year we had someone from the sports community, someone from the music industry, and someone from e-commerce and marketing talk to our students a little bit more about the emerging economies in China. Alex Taggart, the music industry expert, he actually is famous for representing Adele in China. So one of the biggest artists worldwide, represented to big companies like Tencent and Baidu and Huawei, who basically pay a lot of money to get Western music onto Chinese websites. Mark Dreyer has famously reported for CCTV News, Fox Sports, Sky Sports, and he, of course, covers sports and the sports media in China. And then Kenny Liu last year spoke a little bit about e-commerce and the emerging field of e-commerce in China. So this is an opportunity to not just learn about speakers and their backgrounds, but also learn about new industries as well as, of course, networking. Community outreach events. I unfortunately didn't have a picture of the ASU event last year, but usually we connect with schools for migrant laborers' children. So this is going to be basically a Saturday or Sunday event where you'll be expected to go and volunteer with our program staff and, of course, with your other fellow students, meeting and greeting Chinese students who you do art projects with, who you speak to in English with, just so you guys can really see not just the aspects of the corporate aspects of China, but also the volunteering aspects as well. And last but not least, if you're interested in joining this program I can guarantee you will be life-changing. You will be doing things that not many people have done, including camping on the Great Wall of China. You will be exploring places that not many people have explored in the world. Beijing is a huge city, and there's so many alleys and hutongs that have little gems of restaurants in. So this program will not just, allow you to get that fundamental work experience to really get something on your resume and learn about Chinese business opportunities, but it'll also allow you to explore China. Now, to apply to this program, it is quite simple. All you have to do is talk to Jessica Hirschhorn and ASU, and then you can be assigned to an advisor from CRCC Asia. What we need is, of course, a resume, and I would like to note that this is a one-page resume with all of your previous work experience, your GPA included, of course, as well as any extracurriculars that you might have. And I would like to note that we do take extracurriculars into account when placing students, as many of you have not had full-time positions before in companies. Extracurricular experiences do speak wonders about what a student does on campus. We'll also be interested in learning more about your sector interests and career goals. So these are two things to think about. So if you're, for example, a marketing major at ASU, but you don't really know what field within the broader field of marketing you want to focus in on, have this in mind and we can talk you through a lot of this. Career goals, we'll of course talk you through your career goals. and really allow you to weigh in on what you want this internship to be for you. So what you hope to gain from this internship. And finally, of course, you do need a valid US passport to travel to China. So this is something that you will have to give a scanned copy to ASU so they can give it to us. So that concludes my little spiel about the Devils in Beijing program. I hope this was informative. And if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to Jessica, who can connect you with a CRCC Asia advisor. And then, of course, we will be in contact probably around January, February, and March for pre-departure. I hope you are well, and I hope you've come on this program in 2017. And of course, if you do have any questions, we are here to help. Take care. Bye-bye.